Starting out with custom FPV drones can feel overwhelming. If you're one of those people, I highly recommend this book, FPV Drone Essentials, the English edition. I still remember my first custom FPV flight. I had done a lot of simulator practice and flown DJI FPV several times. But looking back, I was pretty reckless. The result? My first Whoop drone was completely destroyed. Many beginners might have a similar experience. When I first got into the hobby, I told myself, I'll do everything, except soldering. But after seeing my wrecked Whoop, I realized this is a hobby where soldering is basically unavoidable. So, I ordered a soldering iron right away. But is a soldering iron enough? When you're taking things apart and trying to reassemble them, it's hard to figure out where motors go or what part might be broken, especially if there's no clear visual reference. Sure, you can search YouTube or Google for answers, but it's not always easy because it's not just about finding information. You have to judge how trustworthy that information is. Even more, with all this fragmented knowledge, it's really hard to get a full picture of how FPV drones work as a whole. If you've felt that way, this book by Yongsung Kwon, FPV Drone Essentials, is exactly for you. When I was a beginner, I actually got a lot of help from an earlier Korean book by the same author, called FPV Racing Drone Bible. It was published back in 2018, and even at that time, it was out of print, hard to find, and often sold used at prices higher than the original 32,000 KRW retail price. So why was it in such high demand? Author Yongsung Kwon doesn't over-explain theory. He focuses on practical, hands-on information. In fact, Part 2 of the English edition walks you through how to build a real FPV drone using a Ref FDK 5-inch frame and the widely used Mamba stack. As you can see from the book, there are tons of photos showing actual builds, setup screens, and step-by-step instructions. This isn't just a book, it's practically a manual for building your own FPV drone. But don't think that's all it is. Part 1 covers all the major FPV components: frame, flight controller, ESC, motors, VTX, even your radio and goggles. It explains how each one works, making it easier for beginners to understand both the big picture and the details. Each chapter also lists current popular parts in use, so you're not just learning theory, you're getting up-to-date product knowledge too. That's probably why the older edition became such a collector's item. The book is about 700 pages long. Do you need to read it cover to cover? I don't think so. Most of us aren't trying to become FPV experts, right? Just skimming the table of contents gives you a solid overview of the entire FPV ecosystem. Here's a super basic explanation of how FPV drones work. Motors and propellers generate thrust. ESCs control motor speed. The flight controller, FC, commands the ESCs based on sensor data. Say you're doing a dive. The FC uses an IMU to sense the drone's motion. When you reach the bottom and punch the throttle, the FC calculates how much power to send to each motor. It passes those instructions to the ESCs, which adjust current accordingly. Simple, right? If you go through Part 1 with that kind of framework in mind, you'll get a great grasp of how drones work overall. Now, Part 2 details the entire build process. The book explains not only in text, but also with high-quality photos of every step, soldering each chip, assembling the frame, everything. If you follow along, you could actually complete your own FPV drone. Even if you're not planning to build your own right now, skimming this part still helps. Because here's the thing, sooner or later, something will break. And when you need to replace, say, an ESC, you're practically rebuilding the whole quad anyway. I believe FPV is a continuous loop of trial and error. Can't bind your ELRS receiver? Look up the binding section and double-check every step. ESC dead? Pull up the soldering instructions and try again. Of course, no book can cover everything about FPV in one go, not even a 700-page one. But what makes this book special is how well it balances overview and detail. Also, the technical reviewers for this book include FPV racers, industry engineers, and developers. That adds huge credibility. Unlike internet searches, where you always have to fact-check multiple sources, this book comes pre-verified by experts. That trust factor really matters. Let me share how I personally used this book to help viewers who asked questions on my channel. One person commented that they followed my Parvo 20 build guide exactly, but Betaflight showed an arming disabled warning. Luckily, this book has an entire section on Betaflight and clearly explains each arming flag. Another viewer asked if they needed to set up a model on their radio before ELRS binding. Again, the book shows full model setup screenshots and explains why you need to configure RF protocols for each model before binding. Super clear. One more example. Someone asked about flying with lithium-ion batteries and whether it's okay to go below 3.0 volts per cell. When I first looked this up, Google didn't help much because FPV searches mainly bring up LiPo-related info. But this book isn't algorithm-driven, it's knowledge-driven. The battery section lays out everything clearly, including lithium-ion usage charts and best practices. In short, FPV is a journey full of bumps, both in the air and during the build. This book has been a reliable companion for me every step of the way. I hope it helps many other FPV beginners out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll leave you with some FPV footage to wrap things up. 감사의 인사를 드리며 이 서평 영상을 마무리하도록 하겠습니다.